I'm Brian Noel. I'm in a garage, obviously. I'm in a garage because I'm also a husband, a father, and an aspiring serial entrepreneur. It's late, my family's asleep, and I wanted to show you the garage before we get rid of this stuff, take it to Goodwill, and turn this area into a little studio. Today, I am so excited to share with you interviews with Jack Fussell, the man from the future. Yes, 6 hours to be exact, he's from Copenhagen. An incredible interview, very insightful guy. You have to watch this one. First, I'd love to hear your introduction of yourself.
It's a great question.
That's a hard question for every serial entrepreneur to answer.
Yeah, because it almost depends on which day of the week as to which thing I'm pursuing.
That's true. What's the answer today?
I would say the answer today is I'm Jack Fussell. I'm a visual storyteller with a deep passion for telling people stories and even telling stories of our cities and those who live there, that type of thing. So,
and what city is that?
I'm currently in Copenhagen, Denmark.
So, well, I'd love to hear then. I would say if you relate to what person am I today, I would assume that you somewhat relate to my 3 a.m. rant. So I'd love to hear your immediate reaction after watching that.
My immediate reaction was, I'm glad I'm not the only guy like this. I don't wake up at 3, but I wake up every morning the same exact way. Sometimes mine are actually like midnight rants because I just don't go to sleep. But I totally identified with you, totally the sense of, I cannot tell you how many Evernotes, things I've written at 12, 1, 2 o'clock. They're always time-stamped, which cracks me up. So I totally identified with you. It was very much, that feeling of, so I'm not the only drunk. There are more of us out there that have a problem.
Well, let me ask you this. You said, when you say you wake up, you feel the same, you think the same, how do you articulate what's going on in your head?
That's a great question. And if you ask my wife, she'll say he has no clue how to articulate what's in his head. She wakes up every day and basically says, so what are we going to do today? And it doesn't mean like, are we going to go to the grocery store first? It means, are we going to start a new business? Are we going to keep blogging where you were blogging? Is it time to close that 1 week blog down and go with something new? How many domains did you buy since you woke up? A lot of times what happens is the ideas come and then it's usually in the shower of all things, which I can't ever note in there. I just kind of keep thinking about it. And usually the ideas start to gel. You start to look, for me, I start to look for trends because I have a million ideas. But I'm not going to pursue the vast majority of them. But I try to either write them down or something just to kind of keep and start looking for trends. Like, what am I thinking about? I feed into that with, I've gone podcast crazy in the last 6 weeks. I mean, literally, I went from like 3 that I was listening to like 15, like just ravenous. I just cannot stop. And so even with those, I'm scrolling through, a lot of these are 4 or 5 year old podcasts. There's a good depth of information there. And I'm just scrolling through looking for like the top 10, like I know what I'm thinking, what I'm struggling through, what I'm wrestling with. Where are these guys that can speak into this? Where across the board of the spectrum can these guys start speaking into this? Because I don't have anybody else. It's a great city, but I'm very much alone with what we do here. Tina gets me and she can help me. I can't, she won't run every idea with me because she knows most of them aren't going to stick. And you're not available besides occasionally. You can't be on call 24/7. I need a Peggy is what I need, like from Mad Men, like someone I can call in my office, get in here. It helps form my ideas, but I don't have a Peggy. So I just spend a lot of time on the couch thinking about all this stuff. And I still don't know what the answer is, but it's just trying all that.
Well, do you feel like, has it always been this way for you? Or do you feel like as you progress, the ideas are growing? How has that transition been over the past decade for you?
Prior to 4 years ago, prior to 2 years ago, I would have never said I'm an entrepreneur. I would have just said I'm a daydreamer. I occasionally, no matter where I worked, even when I was working more, corporate type jobs or whatever, I would always see things. But I figured that was just me being, a lot of times I figured honestly it was me being rebellious or something else. Like that was something negative because it was very much a conformist world that I was in. Even the faith background that I come from is very much that conformist don't question all these things. So I kind of equate it as evil or non-desirable. But the last 2 to 3 years, I think it was mainly meeting people. Getting here in Copenhagen, when we started, I joined a business network and started meeting other entrepreneurs and other people who I kept expecting them to say, well, I've got my bachelor's in this and my master's in this, my PhD in this. And they didn't. You know, a lot of times it was like me, they had some crazy degree, they've never used it, or they didn't have any degree at all, or they were already doing a big day job, but they started this thing on the side and it took over. And so I started realizing, I thought there was like one route. Like you had to study this from the time you were 5. And then, you know, someone identifies you as like the Jedi, you know, the force is strong with this one. He will start many businesses. And I really thought that's how it was worked. And I figured, well, I didn't get flagged as that. You know, Qui-Gon Jinn never showed up at my house and said, he's the chosen one. He will restore balance to the entrepreneurial force. None of that ever happened. So I thought, well, I'm just weird. But in the last 2 years, meeting people that have tried things and are willing to start and stop and kill some ideas and relaunch other things. And I don't know. I think when you start meeting those people, you realize I can do this. You know, and these ideas, and I think it's like I'm not a huge bodybuilder, but I do go to the gym, and I know that the more you work out a muscle, the easier it gets, but also the stronger it gets. And so I think it's the same thing. I think when you have that, you know, we very much moved from the backside of the bell curve. I was many times a resistor to new ideas, and now we're early adopters, sometimes innovators. So I think all of that has been like, you know, I also used to weigh almost 200 pounds and now weigh, 150. And it's that same transition where you start using something and it gets stronger and leaner and then it's easier to use it. Still not always easy, but at least you're not afraid of it.
Okay, so you just said a lot of really, really great things. Okay, so here's what's cool. So the first thing you said was, okay, so if I summed it up, from evil dreamer to aspiring entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Man, that is solid.